welcoming and gathering. This beginning, this now, this here. And sit quietly for 15 minutes or so. As we gather, because people come and enter the meditation room, enter the Zoom session over the next 15, 20 minutes. This here, this now. This present moment. So physically connecting to the body in this moment, to the ground, to the earth element, the sense of persistence. The energy of this moment. Reconnecting with the well-wishing, reconnecting with this here now, the knowing, knowing this knowing. Releasing, wanting something out of this situation, not carrying anything from the past. This here and now. And we wish ourselves well. We wish beings well. When we can give attention and receive life. Knowing this moment and giving life to life. The awareness knows. past. We don't have to carry. The future we don't need to reach for. And safety in this knowing. And we can receive the sensitivity that is life and give life to it by knowing that sensitivity. Giving life to life. Welcoming, gathering and collecting the energy of life. Where there is life, here and now. Knowing this knowing. Nothing to get, nothing to get rid of. Nowhere to go, nothing to become. Receiving life without expectation and without projection, and without expectation. Knowing it all. Bearing with it all. Understanding it all. Realizing that peace in this moment, silence in the space, in the knowing, and the breath, and stillness. gathering the energy, so there's aliveness in this knowing, without expectation, hope, or fear, without pushing away or grasping forward. Welcoming and receiving life, giving life to life, where life is. This time and place, this here and now, where the greatest freedom is, transformation is. A sense of gratitude and appreciation that is life. The sense of acceptance and well-wishing, which is life. Sense of complete spaciousness, openness, which is life. Give life to life. Appreciate life. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. I've been asked about what patience or kanti paramita is. Paramitas are the wholesome habits that are mentioned in the Buddha that, when cultivated, lead to the birth of the Buddha. You know, the stories are of hundreds of lifetimes of cultivating these qualities that led to the birth of the Buddha Gautama. And reflecting on that, particularly at this time coming up to Vesak, which is the enlightenment and the birth and the parinibbana of the Buddha. There's a time in Thailand when they tell the stories, particularly of the last one, the last birth before the birth, as the Bodhisattva Siddhartha Gautama. But the one that is really worth working with and reflecting on, I mean, they're all excellent. And the first one is, in some ways, the most important one, the sense of generosity that cuts against that sense of insufficiency, which is what powers the sense of neediness or the sense of overwhelm, which, when we believe the sense that I can't do it, or I need more, or I need to push things away, I can't deal with this. That compulsion is a driving force for extra pain for ourselves and others. And to transform the habits of envy and of criticism and rage and anger and frustration, what to do. And how to transform those, how to actually burn them up, transforming. Because burning is a transforming energy. That's how we cook. But how to do it in a way that actually burns up the defilements. Well, the supreme austerity is, well, the supreme Brahmana is patience, kanti. And that, I know that for me, the idea of being patient for 5 minutes means that I just get more impatient. When's the 5 minutes up? Is it over yet? Is it over yet? And that's not really practicing patience. Patience is, for me, it's a this moment experience. It's a willingness to bear It's a willingness not to get caught in anger or frustration with shortcomings perceived or cruelty perceived or inadequacies or mistakes perceived, particularly in others. That tendency to find fault, criticize, to see the wrong in people is an absence of patience. And patience is not getting caught, not getting angry in that, with that. It's not saying you don't notice the shortcomings or the mistakes, but not getting angry with them. It's not being blind, but not being angry. Such a restraining, um, powerful transforming of energy. That's what I would encourage you to consider with patience. Patient endurance is the supreme austerity. And that burning, let the burning burn all the fuel away, all the sense that is feeding that sense of resentment, that sense of anger. Let it burn away till it's cool. Where the burning, where it's hot, make it cool. Make it cool. That. And can you really sustain anger? Can you put a clock in front of you? Ajahn Chah was mentioned in 1979 when somebody said they had problems with anger. They said, put a clock up in front of you. Stay angry. See if you can stay angry for 2 hours without a break. See if you can stay upset with somebody. You notice that when one gets upset with it, it's a habit that comes up in the moment when one thinks about the person, one gets an allergic reaction or a disproportionate reaction to people's faults and shortcomings and mistakes. And it's all in the other person. That other person is making me angry. It's not the other person at all. The other person's just doing what the other person's doing. Not getting angry at another person's faults or mistakes or shortcomings is patience. It's not ignoring them. It's not pretending they're not there. And the person one needs to deal with, of course, is this one, 24 hours a day. Not getting angry with the upset, the mistakes, shortcomings, stupidities, but bearing with it and correcting it, obviously. Acknowledging faults is a start, particularly one's own faults. Acknowledging one's own faults is a start. And, as I've said many times, stupid people think they never ever make mistakes. And stupid people don't learn from their mistakes and keep repeating them and wonder why they get the same results. If you're a bit clever, you stop making mistakes, you stop hurting yourself. getting angry at other people's faults and problems and mistakes. How much does that hurt you? Can't stand it anymore. Stop doing it then. Mm. Put away covetousness and grief. One of the phrases that is used, I don't know, covetousness is a sense of longing for something, longing for something to be different. You know, heart into being if only, when only. And the grief is, oh, it's so bad, it's terrible like this. In the Satipatthana Sutta, the phrase they use is putting away covetousness and grief. Receive life as it is. Work where it is. Have confidence. You don't have to add to your suffering. People with chronic pain know this, and then we don't notice how much chronic pain we carry around. And we add to it by making mistakes. People with physical chronic pain, they have a real hard time, but they do know how to work with it often. But I know that, if I have physical pain or I'm sick, I don't know what to do. I need a doctor. And I can make mistakes. And anger and covetousness and grief and all that, they're sicknesses, they're vipalas, they're perversions. Perversions on the level of perception, perversions on the level of thought and mental proliferation, and perversions on the level of view. And it's right really deep. It's like this person's always wrong. That's the assumption that I ever have when I think about this person, or it's a perversion. Listening to Ajahn Lumpur came a Dhamma talking about criminals who were locked up in prison. And he's saying that, whatever they're locked up for, that's not all that they are. And he's known some pretty tough or pretty criminal minds. But he doesn't see it as that's all that they are. He doesn't make a fixed position about them. And yet we can make fixed positions about all sorts of people and about ourselves. Put away covetousness and grief. Sense of I have to get. When this happens, I'll hold it to my heart that this is what's going to really make me happy. If only I get this, then I'll be happy. You know it doesn't work like that. And all you're adding when you're putting that into the universe is more pain. And you're putting more pain into the universe, what you're going to get is more pain. Sorry. Setting up conditions for things to be more inadequate in the future. If only I was born in a different place. If only I had different parents. If only I had this. If only the world was different. covetousness, and grief. And then the lack of patience, the continued tendency to find fault or get angry with the fault that one perceives in others, the mistakes one perceives in others, the errors that one perceives in others. Getting angry with that, getting frustrated with that, grieving over that, adds to the pain for oneself and others. Oh, one, coming back to the sense of this is how it is, and the seen, there's just the seen. In the heard, there's just the heard. In the conceived, there's just the conceived. In the sense, there's just the sense. In the sense, there's just the sense. So the senses are not going out and interfering. It's not necessary to proliferate, to add to it. Notice what's not going out. Come back to the sense of knowing. Know the knowing. Then the attention is much more protected from the fire. And the fire can just burn. Yeah, I really appreciate just not thinking about stuff too much, just noticing. Like just this sense of shapes, sounds, silence. And there's a genuine sense of well-wishing. That's the basis of it. Trusting that sense. If that's what's happening, trusting that and not making it more complicated than that. This breath. Now the 10 parameters, I say patience is what I've mentioned most, but it's and generosity is the beginning and end of it. And the sense of self-respect and fearlessness that comes with sila, with ethical discipline, self-discipline. And the renunciation of just seeking pleasure through the senses. And the wisdom to just discern, this is how it is. This is how I can relate to this with with vigor, with energy and honesty, remembering what one has decided to do, adhitthana, and of course metta and upekkha, which is the last two. This is something we can do. But the patience is this moment. Not getting angry with the shortcomings, mistakes, or faults. Because I know when I get angry, I make mistakes. I can't notice stuff. Why did I put this? Why am I being so stupid? Why are they doing that? It doesn't hurt, doesn't help me, doesn't help others. And even little bits of anger, not noticing that the anger's coming up, and then something just knocks me in the face. I recognize that absence of patience, getting caught in getting angry with shortcomings, mistakes, errors. In oneself and others. Switch to joy and appreciation, switch to metta and kindness, switch to equanimity. And compassion, because we do wish ourselves well. We would really like to work out how there can be less suffering for ourselves and others. Find wise ways to reduce suffering. Because we understand that there is suffering. We are brothers and sisters. People we call our blood brothers and sisters. And they're like this. They're not perfect either, but we're all brothers and sisters in old age, sickness, and death. This is what we share. This is where we meet on that bodily level. But what is common, well, behind all of this is just the impersonal knowing. And the gateway to that, know the knowing. 80% of the attention inwards. And put down covetousness and grief. Covetousness is such a soul-destroying sense. When I'll only be happy when this happens. Yearning of the heart, as they say. Yeah. That's what one keeps putting out. That's what one keeps adding to the stresses and strains of that. And feed the sense of incompleteness, feed the sense of inadequacy. But that's how it is. That's how it is. Oh, for this one here, incredible sense of great good fortune. Fortunate being, fortunate life. Quite how it's turned out like this, I'm not quite sure. So I'll probably give that is enough for this evening. And then if you have questions, if you can write them in the chat to begin with, then I'll try and respond to that. Don't turn on your mics yet. Keep yourself muted. But if you have any questions, please write them in the chat box for now. I think I'll shut you all up or something. No more questions. No doubts, fears, hopes, worries. How does this go with aspirations? Aspirations come from a sense of adequacy. Aspirations are the sense of, if I put the effort in and remember where I want to go and work out how to get there, then there'll be success. I call them the roads to success. Chanda, Virya, Chitta, Vimamsa. Chanda is aspiration. Virya is effort. Chitta is a sort of tone of the mind. Vimamsa is working out how to get there. It's equivalent to panya. So noticing where you are in relationship to where you aspire to get to. But aspiration has to come from a sense of contentment. Because you can't be happy if you start from discontentment. Because then you're coming from a sense of I can't cope with this. You are coping with this. There's nothing you can't cope with because where you are coping with it. A sense of it's okay, I can do this. But if your aspiration is to get somewhere that that you've covered, that you're holding in your heart, that I won't be happy until I get there, then that's not coming from a sense of contentment. And it's not coming from a sense of adequacy. It's coming from a sense of inadequacy. And you feed that sense of inadequacy. I won't be happy until I get there. Oh, and that's not going to work, is it? Because what you're feeding is a sense of, I'm not happy now. I'm just waiting for something to happen. Not going to work. But I know I'm not happy. Find a way to be happy now. Find a way to be happy now. I'm thinking that finding a sweet chili is going to help. It's not going to work, is it? Okay. Don't seek happiness where there's no happiness. joy at last, to know that there is no happiness in the world. Giving life to life, is that possible to realize by accepting things as they are? And from which energy should one work on things that are important to someone? Giving life to life, well, it's knowing, really knowing how things are in this moment. It's not so much accepting as knowing. You're not either accepting or rejecting. And then what energy should one work on things that are important to someone? The energy of generosity, the energy of offering what one can, the energy of even if what one is offering is attention and space for it to be known, then that's already generous. And then what one can offer, one offers without expecting a result. One notices what the result is, but one doesn't expect a result. And then if it's causing more pain, what one's offering, then one tries to adapt that. But sometimes pain, is necessary to go through. Right? When you put disinfectant on a wound, it stings for a bit. But that's the way that it is. Right? The sense of offering, the sense of giving, the sense of doing the best one can, the sense of wishing well and finding ways to wish well. Yeah, to forgive but not forget. Next question, what is your take on the saying, forgive but not forget? Isn't conflict necessary in order to improve our relationships with a dear one? Yeah, conflict is inevitable, I think, but it's the nature of different people. They're not going to always be the same. There's always going to be some conflict. But reconciliation with somebody who's really hurt you, you can forgive it because it's the sensible thing to do so you don't carry it. But reconciliation may take longer and may take gestures that actually reinstate a sense of trust or some sort of restitution. And even with oneself, when one makes mistakes, to forgive it, but then to do something that actually works to restore confidence and reconcile. Yeah. So you actually correct mistakes where you can, and if the other person is not correcting mistakes or not making an effort to correct mistakes, and not, then stay away. Now, if something's still dangerous, don't go near it again until it becomes safe. And in your own life, be careful with the mistakes that you make. Forgive them and reconcile with yourself when you actually make efforts not to repeat them. And you actually can see that those efforts are happening. And with other people, similarly, careful. Careful before reconciling. And you don't have to really forget. You also don't have to rub people's noses in it either. You don't have to paint them as permanently one way, which is what happens in the prisons sometimes. Those are mine. In a sense, there's just a sense that every stimulation we receive when living and working with others, we need to try to knock those stimulations down on our chitta. Is this correct? Yeah, to the sense of wonderment that the fact that there is this stimulation, so that the chitta is not clouded, so that the perceived, there's just the perceived. Yeah? And the cognized, there's just the cognized. So just, this is what's happening. This is an angry mind, or this is what. If you can stay with just the sense, that just the sense is just, and the perceived is just the perceived. So there's just stay without adding to them, adding more to it. The chitta is always there. It's not that the heart doesn't. It doesn't make even more of that. It doesn't over it. Because our sense of self is fed through food, through senses, through karma, and through consciousness. That's the food for our sense of self. Do you think that's such a common thing nowadays, isn't it? Kanida Bradshaw, can you give me some advice about looking after a very elderly parent who I haven't had an easy relationship with? Yeah, I think this sense of duty around it, the sense of thing with it. My mother, I don't think we got it completely right. I think we got it completely right with my father either. But my father was very um, uh, strong-willed, and yeah. So, and then my father died, and then my mother was on her own, and then she had to figure out. We had to figure out how to look after her, and it wasn't easy. And I've got no idea the particular situation of your elderly parent and what help you have. The person who needs looking after in this, Candia, is yourself. So make sure that you have enough support, and then seek out what support you can get from whatever social services and things. And as much as you can, try to appreciate the goodness of your parent and know that things will change. You know, I don't know whether they actually, how much they might have abused you or didn't abuse you or whatever, but certainly I think most children feel that their parenting has not been perfect. So I think that's common. Um, they haven't been their parents have not been perfect, and the parenting they've received has not been perfect. But for most people, they didn't know what they were doing, and they didn't know what they were up to. It's ignorance. They were not completely enlightened beings, my parents. But if it was good enough, then it was good enough. And then if you offer what help you can with a sense of offering, and then notice your own sense of, if you offer from a sense of responsibility, then the result is definitely going to be resentment, because that's what responsibility does. It turns into resentment. Whereas if you offer with a sense of, this is what I can do and this is all I can do, and it's not going to be what you want, but this is what I can offer. The parenting you received from your parents was what they could offer at the time. It wasn't perfect, and it may have been inadequate in some ways. And what you can offer now is what you can offer now. And look to your own heart that you don't get caught in a sense of caught in responsibility, but a sense of more that this is what I can give. I can give this much time, space, energy, money, organizational skills, or whatever. This is what I can do. what I did with my mother and father. I offered what I can. Luckily, I had a sister and a brother, and they were appreciative of what I did offer, which was not what they offered. They offered different things. Sister especially. Hey. Karma is not food for the self. Yeah, it's one of the nutriments. 4 nutriments. Food for the sense of self.